Union Affairs Officer.
Brilliant. Thank you very
Serving
much.
as the head of the union and chair of the trustee board, the Union Affairs Officer is responsible for leading coordination between senior university staff and the Students' Union, as well as working with the colleges. Their key responsibilities are representing students in senior university discussions, working with college committees, and acting as the head of the union.
Hello, I'm Amberly and I'm joined by Lewis Parrey, who is our current Union Affairs Officer and is rerunning for the role. First of all, welcome to the studio. Can you briefly introduce yourself and explain why you're seeking re-election as Union Affairs Officer?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Lewis, and as you said, I'm the current Union Affairs Officer. I really enjoyed my time in the role over the last year, and I'm really proud of some of the stuff I've been able to achieve for students and for the student community. But I want to go even further, and I want to continue delivering for students. I love this job so much, and I love being able to do what I do. But I just think I can do even more with another year.
Okay, so reflecting on your previous term, what are you most proud of achieving and what challenges have you faced?
Yeah, I think most recently is one of the big things that I'm most proud of, which is lobbying to reverse the university's decision on increasing rent. So they were originally planning to increase accommodation rent by 9%, and we managed to lobby them to get it down to 5 to 6%, which is obviously still too much. We would never endorse any rent increase, but that has saved students next year £1.7 million. And yeah, I think having that figure is something I'm really proud of.
Okay, so moving on to your manifesto. So you propose a student voice partnership agreement with the university. How do you plan to ensure the university remains accountable to student input?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this idea has come actually from Queen's University, who've implemented a very similar thing. And there's lots of different sort of things that come under this general partnership agreement. So, for example, embedding student forums in university decision-making structures so that students' voices are actually, they sort of are embedded there and they have to be listened to, and they sort of work their way up through the structures, but also more informal options for students to directly speak to the sort of university execs who make a lot of the decisions. And this is a plan that actually colleagues at the university are quite positive about and are supportive of, because they also want to see improvement in student experience. And this is a way, it's been proven in other universities, it does work. It's better for the students and the university.
Okay, so following on from that, you propose that student assemblies are a key part of your plan. How will you encourage broad participation and ensure diverse student voices are represented?
Yeah, I think so. Student assemblies are something that technically are within the union's structures, but they're only there as like a sort of last minute if you need a bit more student consultation. I think they should be a much major process in how we decide things in the union. And I think a big thing, we obviously know that students don't have a lot of time. A lot of them are having to work part-time jobs alongside doing their degree, and that comes at the expense of some volunteer positions and representative roles that previously they might have wanted to take on. So I think it's within student assemblies or whatever it would end up looking like, giving a very easy sort of one-off opportunity for students to get involved, so they don't have to dedicate a whole year's worth of time to one rep role. They can just come to one assembly and have their voice heard on a particular issue.
Okay, so following on from that, collaboration with York St John's University is also one of your priorities. What specific outcomes would you like to see from a joint lobbying group with them?
Yeah, I think the reason this is in my manifesto is because actually most of the big issues that are affecting students, in my opinion, can't necessarily be solved on campus. They're issues, sort of wider issues within the city. So accommodation and housing, cost of living, transport, night safety. These are much bigger issues that we can't solve only working on campus, and there hasn't really been, in my opinion, enough collaboration with St John's, for example, or even with any of the other colleges in York. So I think we need to, first of all, build that foundation so that we have a platform that we can lobby lobby the city council on a bit more, and make sure that students are heard in those decisions.
Okay, so now we're going to focus on fighting the cost of living. You've secured a commitment from Leeds JobLink to expand into York. How will you ensure this expansion meets the needs of students seeking part-time work?
So we've, as you said, secured that 5-year commitment from Leeds JobLink, and actually I'm meeting with them on Friday this week to work out exactly what that partnership is going to look like. But the first step in that is setting up a job site, so sort of something like Indeed, for example, but it's built around students in York and specifically designed for them.
So in your interviews last year, you talked about Handshake perhaps being used. How come this hasn't been an idea for you this year?
Good question. So I did start at the start of my time in the role trying to work with the careers department and seeing what we could do around Handshake. And actually, I was told in response after a couple of meetings that part-time jobs is not something they do. They made that very clear. And so it's just isn't really an avenue. And that's why we've sort of found an alternative that we think is going to work a lot better.
Okay, so another thing you say is starting a student union-led letting agency, which is quite an ambitious goal. What steps will you take to establish this agency, and how will you ensure it remains student-focused?
I think you're right, it is a very ambitious goal, but it has been done in other universities. So Lancaster, our Rose's competitors, for example, they have a student-led letting agency, and it means that they know they can sort of say for certain that those properties that students are going into, they're good quality and they are somewhere that students should be living. In terms of how to set that up, there's a number of different sort of avenues we're looking at. I think the easiest initial one is trying to partner with potentially existing letting agencies in the city to sort of open up those avenues, because we're obviously starting from scratch in this area. But I think just having a student union presence in sort of the housing market in York, it's not something we've had so far, and hopefully starting that process.
Okay, thank you. And now moving on to the student experience and improving it. Onto more of a sensitive and topical issue, do you intend to improve nightlife safety and ensure that clubs and providers are held accountable for student welfare?
Yeah, so obviously this is a big issue at the minute, and one of the things I found actually quite challenging in the role is that I have been raising these concerns throughout the year, and I have just felt that sort of clubs and providers, they don't share the same feelings that the SU do in terms of accountability and transparency. And actually the boycott has sort of pushed them more towards that direction. So I think we need to keep pushing them and make sure that they continue down that avenue of greater transparency, greater accountability, and making it easier for students to be part of that process of improving safety.
Okay, so the university's decision to cancel the new student centre is also a concern. What alternative spaces or solutions would you propose to ensure students have adequate facilities?
Yeah. So I've already been in initial discussions with the university around using a empty building, a building that's currently just used for open day sign storage, complete waste of space, in my opinion, which it's got lots of space there that we can use for student groups. Flat floor space I know is a big issue for student group storage, and just more general communal spaces for students.
Okay, thank you. We're running out of time. Could you just summarise in a sentence what your manifesto and what your campaign is campaigning for? Yeah,
I think what makes my manifesto stand out from the others is that it's the only one that has thought out achievable plans of how to deliver for students. It's not...
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have to cut you off there. We're going to head over to the green room now for some discussion.